All right, so today we're going to be reviewing a video from Jan Valentine, or Morf Coach, morf.coach on Instagram. This video is part one of two, talking about weight loss. Jan is a weight loss coach. It's maybe a bit of an oversimplification, but he works more with transformation. That's where the name Morf comes from. So just going to be going through this video, dissecting it bit by bit, see what was done right, what was done not as good, and what could be improved, and how to improve those things. I'm going to be pausing throughout the video to analyze what there is.
Do you think that like just losing the weight is gonna, like everything else is gonna fall into place?
So the hook is decent, but it definitely could be better. There was also maybe about a second and a half gap in the opening. So the way you would fix that, at least within CapCut on the computer, it's a lot easier, is you can really see exactly where the speaking starts using the waveform. You can do it on your phone as well, but if you're editing on the computer, you want to start it exactly on the nose of when you start speaking, because you don't want any gaps when someone is swiping between having your video appear and then you speaking. You want the second that you appear on there to start speaking. And then he opened with, do you think that? Which is not the worst. I mean, it's decent, but the general idea was, do you think that losing weight is going to have everything else fall into place? I think a better way of wording it could be kind of coming out of the gates a little bit more aggressively or a little bit more direct. So you could say something along the lines of, in this case, will losing weight really solve all of your problems? And if you don't want to be that aggressive, you could say something like, is losing weight going to solve everything in your life? Something like that, that kind of gets to the weight loss or the solving of problems. Getting that out into the sentence first and foremost is what I would do with that hook.
Because the person that you become physically needs a new identity, right? The habits and routines and behaviors that got you into trouble in the first place are still waiting for you when you leave the security of the weight loss cut, or, you know, if you want to use bodybuilding terms. But like, as soon as you get off your diet, if you're not willing to be a different person, you're just going to go back to the way that you were, and that person is the one that got you in trouble in the first place. The most important aspect of a transformation, and I use the word transformation because it's not really about weight loss, that nobody is talking about, is an identity shift. There needs to be a massive shift internally to match the shift externally. Otherwise, you're just going to return to the same habits, routines, behaviors that got you in trouble in the first place. And I see it over and over and over. People think that like as long as they lose the weight, everything else will fall into place, but that's not the case.
So I think overall, the video is packed full of value. There's no doubt about that, and Jan knows that. He knows what he's talking about. He's helped many people go through this transformation with weight loss and identity shift, as he was mentioning. The main issue with this one is there's just too many gaps, right? So those gaps are all opportunities for people to get impatient or to get lost and swipe by. So again, when you're editing on the computer, it's going to be a lot easier to break those gaps down. There were also a few ums and likes, and I think a couple of them were there intentionally, but that's also something you can shrink out, both with practicing your scripting and filming and speaking more, but also on the editing side. There's a lot you can do there to really shrink this down by potentially 30% or so in total length by getting rid of all of the gaps. The other benefit of shrinking the total length of your video is with watch time. So if you have a video that's 15 seconds long or a video that's 60 seconds long, it's a lot more likely you'll get people watching 100% of the video with a 15-second video versus 60. So if you can reduce the length of the video without diminishing any of the value or any of the substance that you're saying, then I would definitely reduce it down. But I really think Jan knows this. The value is there. It just needs to be packaged in a way that's quicker and more digestible without so many gaps. And the last thing I would say is, you can't really see it here. I'm viewing the reel on the computer, but on your phone, the text was quite low on the screen. I would raise it a bit higher just so it doesn't get covered up by the description. And I liked the use of the zooming in, the zooming out, punch in, punch out, things like that. Those work super well. And if there is an opportunity to add B-roll that's relevant, maybe you're talking about food here, or when he mentioned the bodybuilding analogy, having a bodybuilder on screen, little things like that can also be added. But overall, getting rid of the gaps would be huge for this video.